Hello and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Podcast number 21. Today's subject, as you see the title, talking about balance and reaching goals, is something that I wanted to touch upon a couple of months ago. It was actually jotted down on my notes for topics. But as you know, things going on in the world changed the direction, changed the lane of some of my podcasts. But if you go back, you'll see a trend. If you look at some of the titles as far as things that I was discussing, as far as reaching goals, more so bodybuilding orientated. And then I changed to more mindset type stuff just because I think we needed to be reminded of these things. So if you haven't listened to any of them, I would say look at the menu now. I mean, there's 20 podcasts, and I think there's something that's almost there for anyone that is looking to improve themselves in and out of the gym. But to me, balance is something that I've been discussing that for years. That was one of my mantras. I mean, if you go back and look at some of my old social media posts, I was big on talking about balance, and you need that. You need that to achieve really anything in life, because if you are dedicated so hard to one thing over another, you most likely are going to burn out. I mean, you can achieve that goal, but it's not going to last forever. You're not going to evolve, and that's what I'm gearing towards here. And I've seen it in the bodybuilding world. I mean, obviously, I've seen it with clients. I've seen it with other people in the social media. I've seen people in all the shows that I promote that they lack the balance to have continued success. And that's really what I'm going to talk about here. And talk about that balance with three things. When it comes to your weight training, when it comes to your diet, and when it comes to, your lifestyle, your life in general. Where if you are lacking that balance, you are not going to last very long. I mean, I've seen it. But it's a fine line, because you don't want to be too relaxed, then set yourself back. Or on the other side of the spectrum is that you are too hardcore, you're going to, crash anyway. I mean, I talked about that. I think hardcore coaches and athletes and how they burn out and they screw their bodies up and all that good stuff. So let's first break it down and talk about weight training and balance. Okay? Now, obviously, the more you weight train, the better that you get. The more frequently you weight train, you're going to get better. You're going to build your body. You are going to get stronger, increase your metabolism, all that good stuff, become healthier. But there also becomes a point where you need to listen to your body. There also comes a point that you need to prioritize what is also going on in your life. And that is, sometimes you'll see people who actually become diet, addicts, where they'll prioritize their workouts over the little things in life that are just as important. I mean, I have clients that will train. They have a vacation and they're freaking out. They're like, Joe, I'm not sure if there's a gym at the vacation spot. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid I'm going to lose all my progress. Now, the problem with that is that they're building up too much anxiety on missing workouts. Now, if you take someone who's worked out 50 weeks in a row, and then they have a week coming up, and they're afraid they're not going to be able to work out, well, tell me that's not keeping the balance in life, because your muscles aren't going to fall off. You're still going to have, typically being active because you are an active person. So really, you got to learn to listen to your body and your mind and allow that balance to take place, because it gives you a healthier mind. So what I typically will tell a client is like, well, just be active. If you can work out, if you can find time, great. But don't take away from your spouse just because you got to hit the gym, unless your spouse is on board and you do it together, or take away from your children. It's really it's to a point that it can be counterproductive mentally, because you have to learn how to let go once in a while to get ahead. So when it comes to balance and weight training, about over exercising, And vacations, you need to understand that maybe that break is there for a reason. And the same thing when it comes to injuries. Everyone hates to be injured. Whoops. I mean, I maybe told stories about when I tore my bicep and I didn't want to have a surgery because I didn't want to miss from working out, but I did alter my workouts. So when we have an injury, that too can be a sign of keeping the balance, and maybe we need to change our training, or just for that time period, let that muscle rest and relax so we can get ahead again instead of pushing it through so much so you make it worse and then you really are fucked at the end. So there's a balance to that with injuries. It's going to happen, okay? But also with the balance that is so important when it comes to weight training is doing something that you enjoy. Stop reaching for the holy grail and be consistent over years, because that daily grind along with the balance is going to give you the most progress. That is evolution. That is what's going to get you ahead. So if you decide to compete, you're going to have much more under your belt and less freakouts if, shit happens or what I call life stuff happens. So take it as it comes. Plan your workouts, but if something comes up, a family trip, don't freak out. Stay active. Listen to your body when you have an injury. And if there's an occasion going on, family gathering, don't sweat it if you're going to miss one workout, and don't feel like you need to make it up, because if you're putting the work in over years, those are just minuscule pin drops, and usually it's there for a reason. So when it comes to balance, as far as diet, okay, again, when someone's in competition mode, they're full-blown hardcore, nothing can stop them. That's great, and I think you need that to a degree. But what about the time between contests? Whether if it's 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, are you going to keep up that high intensity? No, you're not. You're going to burn out. You're going to say, this sucks. I can't do this. That is why I'm a big fan of flexible dieting, first of all, because it allows you that mental break of knowing that you can change your foods, less strict as far as thinking that to get ahead you can only eat 3 foods. I mean, again, that's where I come into play with my clients. I look for the balance in a diet that they can sustain healthy, reach their goals, but also allow them to give them a chance to continue to grow and get better, instead of putting all their chips in for one contest and typically burning out even if they make it to that contest. Usually if they don't make it, then they're saying, well, I'm never going to do this again, it's too hard. That's where the lack of balance comes into play. And again, it parallels with the weight training, because if you keep the balance of your diet throughout years and years, you're going to be that much more comfortable with yourself, and it'll be that much easier to turn that switch on when you need to reduce your calories to lose body fat to eventually compete. So again, big swings in diet. And you see this in social media. You see it all the time. You see these people posting up their diets, their progress pictures, they're kicking ass in the 12 weeks, and then afterwards you don't hear from them. It's crickets. And I bet 99% of the time it's because they blew up. They rebounded terribly. I mean, I've done podcasts on that, about, the post-show type stuff, and, how to rebound afterwards nicely and everything. And why is that? Because they didn't have any balance in their life when it comes to their diet going into their contest prep. But I always say that, anyone can do anything for 3 months, but does it make it right? Does it make it healthy for them? Probably not. So these people that are crickets, and then months later will say, oh, I gained 50 pounds, but it happens, and they look for attention, and then they're back on board. Well, to me, that's an eating disorder, and they didn't have the balance or the right mindset to begin with. So when it comes to your diet, it's almost the same idea. Eat well most of the time. Stay within a certain body fat and body weight range of your last contest. That may take some work, but also allow yourself those breaks once in a while. If you are going on vacation and it's hard to count your macros, I mean, intuitively eat. Maybe at that point you should be able to intuitively eat because you've been counting so long and you can eye foods up. And if you gain a couple pounds over a week's time, so what? Easy gain will be easy loss because your body was in a good position before you went on your vacation. And also, maybe if your activity level was lowered, you'll be still in a good spot because your body was used to eating a certain way. And if you go off of it a little bit, it will, adjust. Okay. Lifestyle, balance. I mean, you see where I'm going here. Live your life. Don't live in a bubble when it comes to weight training is the only thing that's going on, or your diet is the only thing going on. Appreciate everything else, because I always said bodybuilding is an important part of your life, and bodybuilding is the whole spectrum here. Yeah, I'm moving my hands around, but you can't see them. Bodybuilding is the whole spectrum of a healthy lifestyle, weight training, diet, but it's a big part of your life, although it shouldn't be your entire life, because again, that leads to burnout when you have too much of anything, even if it might be good for you at the time, because again, it's all about evolution and moving on and improvement. All right, this comes to the grind that I talked about in podcast number 18. I was talking about what is winning and what's daily grinding. Well, grinding to me is not necessarily how much you can do in a short period of time, because again, I always say anyone can do anything for a few months, but let's see them do that over a few years or 6 years or 10 years, keeping that balance, that flexibility in life so they can continue to grow. When I've been at this for a while. The first time I competed, I was 19. The last time I competed, I was 48. When I was younger, I'm guilty. Yeah, I gained weight a few times too much, but my metabolism was much faster and I didn't have as much knowledge. I didn't have as much data to learn. But I would say over the last 15 years of the few shows that I did, I kept the balance. That's when I started preaching that, because I did it for myself. Even though I might not have been competing, I still set those small goals to look good, for the summer, for the beach vacation, what have you. And I accepted the time off from the gym because I realized that your body and your mind needs that break to take it to the next level so you don't have that burnout. So to tie this podcast up, it's keeping the balance, the flexibility, making sure you are consistent, but also consistent in life where it's going to allow you to grow year after year after year. All right. I think that's what also allowed me to compete after a 7-year break. Now, I'll be honest with you. I had vendettas with myself, or I don't know, that's a good word for that. I had goals for myself that I wanted to prove that I could still do this. I wanted to experience the journey again so I can learn and apply things that I picked up on the last few years. I tried a few new things out because I want to be able to teach my clients that you don't have to do this way, you can do that way, you can keep the balance. But what I really learned is that because I didn't get too far away and I was never so hardcore for year in and year out, it was an easy transition. So going into my contest prep, I dieted, meaning restricted my calories, consistent with my workout. I was able to get away a couple times, even within 2 months of my show, and didn't freak out. That was because I realized that I had that momentum already going, and a couple days off from the gym or intuitively eating while away was not going to ruin me, because I know that I can push through when the time was right. I'm rambling, aren't I? So really, to tie this all together, it's balance of exercise, diet, lifestyle, living over years that's going to give you the results that you're after, instead of the quick fixes over a short and compressed period of time, because that will lead to burnout. Now, if you're just one that wants to compete one time or reach a goal and say, fuck it, I did it, great, and then blow up, so be it. You can do whatever you want. But my goal as a diet coach, fitness coach, bodybuilding coach, a lifestyle coach, what have you, is consistency over time so you can continue to grow and make that progress and feel good about yourself instead of beating yourself up if you miss a meal, instead of beating yourself up if you miss a workout, because they're little droplets, they're little droplets. It's not going to ruin you. All right. If you take someone who's been weight training 10 years with balance and consistency over someone who's been grinding away for 6 months, I'll pick that 10-year person any day, any hour, just because they're going to have that experience. They're going to be more relaxed and they're going to have more success. All right, guys. I'm not sure how I'm going to title this one. I'm probably going to listen to it again. This is something I've just been wanting to talk about because getting back to normal, getting back into a rhythm, you want to keep that balance and flexibility, that lifestyle over years, because that's what's going to pay the most dividends. That's what's going to give you the results that you want, and you're going to be happier with yourself, and I think that's what matters the most. So any questions or concerns, please email me at fitfranco@verizon.net. I'm always looking for new topics. If you're interested in coaching, hit me up, teamfrancobodybuilding.com, and just do what you got to do, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.